Hey guys, today I want to take you along on a closer look at the student planning pages in the Homeschool Adventures Planner. So first of all, I've got my planner open here, I've got a pencil, and I'm ready to start planning. And I'm just going to use my son Marcus, who is 7, to give you guys kind of a demonstration of how I set up my student sections in my planner. So each student gets their own student pages, and you start off with this page where you can put their name, and you've got some about me information here. So I really just have my son sit next to me and I will ask him questions as I go through this. So he's 7 years old. I asked him what his favorite book is, Charlotte's Web, since we're actually reading that right now, so he's enjoying it. His favorite movie is Lego Batman right now. He didn't have a favorite song, so I left that blank. And then his favorite outdoor activity is riding his bike. And his favorite indoor activity is playing video games. It's really fun to be able to look back at their different answers each year and keep this as kind of a keepsake. When I got to the last question about when I grow up, I want to, my son honestly told me at that moment, I don't know. So I wrote down exactly what he said. Now, moving on to the resources page, I am going to write down here all of Marcus's individual pieces of curriculum that he's going to be using for the year. So to start out with, on this reading list, I like to write down the books that the kids are actually reading for themselves. So he is finishing up the reading lesson, and he's not going to have a whole lot of that left by the time we start school for the year. So I did write that down there. And then next, I move on to the subject boxes and the resources for those subjects. And we do a curriculum that's kind of a box all-in-one curriculum. We do tweak some things in that curriculum, but anyway, next year my son's going to be using Heart of Dakota's Beyond Little Hearts for His Glory. So I wrote that as my first subject box, and then after that I filled in his math. He uses Singapore math, so I went ahead and filled in the books he's going to be using. And his language arts, I filled in some of the pieces of language arts that he's going to be using for the year. And you guys can do this as well. It doesn't matter what curriculum you use. You can use this for any curriculum. You just pick out those subjects and you write down the different pieces, the different resources that go along for each of those subjects. Just so you have it on hand, you have a record of it, you know what you're using. This is kind of also a way to commit to what you've decided on using. Once it's written down, you really feel like, okay, we're going to do this. And also you notice that I am writing in pencil, so I encourage you to write in pencil. Just in case something does change, you can go back and erase it and then rewrite it if you need to. You just want to remember when you're writing down your subjects and planning for each of your children that you need those core subjects covered: math, language arts, history, and science. And then the extras have a nice little place down at the bottom of the page that you can add whatever electives maybe that you're having your children do. Maybe it's a foreign language or poetry or the list can go on and on. Whatever extras you might have, that's the place to write those down. I did go back to my reading list here and I added some books that my son is going to be reading when he finishes the reading lesson. I went ahead and I took a moment to get out the catalog from Heart of Dakota, and I'm writing down the first several books that are listed on their emerging readers set. I have those books already and I know that I'm going to be doing them with my son, so I just went ahead and took a moment to write them in on his reading list. Now let's move on to the lesson trackers. These lesson trackers are amazing and you can use them in so many ways. They're really versatile. So first of all, you can use this lesson tracker to keep grades. Some people like to keep grades in their homeschool, some people don't. That's really a personal preference. Personally, I don't keep grades. However, I do like to write down lessons or lesson numbers, or maybe it's page numbers depending on the subject. On this page, I am writing down Marcus's math, Now he started Singapore 1B last year. He's about halfway through it. So we are just picking up where we left off when we start school. I went ahead and wrote down the first couple of things that he's going to be doing in math, and I'll continue this until the tracker is full. But for today, just for this example, I'm going to stop and move on to another example for you guys. The next lesson tracker, I'm going to go ahead and put the subject as our main curriculum, Beyond Little Hearts for His Glory. I just abbreviated it because it's simple to do it that way. And then I'm going to go ahead and write in the unit and the day. So this curriculum is set up with, I think, 34 units, and then there's 5 days per unit. So I'm just writing 1-1, 1-2, 1-3, 1-4, and so on. And actually, if you notice, the units for this curriculum are 1 unit per week, and you'll see on this line I've got Unit 1 and Unit 2 across the top line. So that is 2 weeks. You can fit 2 weeks of a 5-day week across each line in this tracker. If you wanted, you could actually take a marker and draw a line right down the middle, and you'll be able to see all the weeks of your school year. Now what I do throughout the year when we finish is I highlight, just like you saw me do there. I highlight with a marker when we have completed something. So by the time we're done, this whole tracker will be filled in with color and we will be celebrating. There are 180 squares in these lesson trackers per subject. I was trying to show you down at the bottom. I see that it's kind of off the screen now, but down at the bottom I was showing how you can just write down grades. If you are keeping grades, you can just kind of write them in each box and you can add a little date to it. There is enough room to do that. So that is lesson trackers in a nutshell. You can really use them in any way that best fits you in your homeschool. You might even want to fill these in after the fact. If you like to plan from behind, just write down what you do each day in the boxes. Something I found very useful over the years of homeschooling is to take some time to reflect. And I have set up quarter reflections in this planner to help you remember to do that. So each quarter, just take a few minutes and sit down and think about each child and how they're doing. And you can make notes on what they're doing well, what they need to work on. You can also take notes on yourself. You can reflect on yourself as a teacher for this child and just make some notes here. And that just kind of helps you to have an idea going forward. How are we doing? It's important to remember the positives and the negatives when you're going over these quarter reflections as well. Don't dwell on the negative things. Really think about the positives and see your child for their growth. And then when you do notice the negatives, come up with a game plan, a goal of how you can improve on whatever that negative is. This last page in the student section is where you can make a note and you can do some research and you can write all your thoughts down, all of your ideas down for next year. Any new curriculum you come across, or maybe there's field trips, maybe there's some extra activities you want to do with that child the next year, this is the place to write it down. Now let's go back to that first page for a minute. I have printed off a picture of my son. I printed it as a 3.5 by 5 inch picture, and I'm just going to trim it down a little bit so it will fit in this square here. This square is about 3 3/4 inches by 3 1/4 inch. So now I've got this handy dandy little Scotch adhesive tape, I think is what it's called. This is really cool. It's kind of like rolling on a piece of tape, except it's not tape. It's got tiny little glue dots on it. And once you use this stuff and you put your picture down, it's not going to come off. So it works really well. I like it. And I use that to put this picture right here on the page of my son. And then I like to get a little fancy and go with that scrapbook kind of feel. And I get my my washi tape out here, and I'm just gonna add a couple of pieces of washi tape just to, I don't know, just to make it look pretty, because that's what I do. Maybe I'm a little extra. Maybe you guys like to do that too, though. So it's just some ideas for you guys. This is what I do. I really like looking back on these pictures over the years. It's fun to see how the kids grow. It's kind of like their yearbook picture in a way. So my son had given some good thought to his answer to his question earlier about what he wanted to do when he's grown up. And he came back to me and he told me that he wants to be a police officer and that he wants to work at McDonald's. So I went ahead and erased his I don't know answer, and I wrote down exactly what he told me. I think it is priceless. I love being able to look back at these little thoughts that they have when they're answering these questions. So maybe one day when he's 17, 18, graduating, maybe he has worked at McDonald's. Maybe he does still plan to be a police officer. Whatever it is, maybe he's doing something completely different. Either way, it's fun to look back and share these memories. I did decide to write down our read-alouds in this extra space on the other page as well. I was going to write them in the family section because we might kind of combine our read-alouds this year, but I decided I wanted to go ahead and write it down here. Read-alouds are one of our favorite parts of homeschooling. I have read books aloud to my kids for years and years, and they just love it, and I love it, and it's become a core part of our homeschooling. I have one more thing to share with you guys. Since Marcus is going to be doing this year anyway, this is copybook A. This is something that I have put together that's available as a printable through my Etsy shop. This copybook includes poetry and scripture for your child to practice their handwriting by copying. There are also beautiful paintings that are included in this. You can use those paintings as a picture study with your child, and that's all explained in the beginning of this copybook in the teacher directions. This is the first book in a set of 3 that I am working on. So if you're interested in that, also you can check out my Etsy shop and find that in the printables. Thank you guys so much for watching this video. I hope you've learned a lot about how to plan for your students in your Homeschool Adventures Planner. If you have any questions, please put them in the comments below, and I will catch you guys in the next video.